Good morning, Year 5. Today we're going to be carrying on looking more at percentages and how they relate to fractions and decimals. And today in particular we're going to look at equivalent ones. Remember, equivalent means the same or equal to. So we started looking at this at the end of last lesson. So this lesson will just be a bit of a recap. Let's have a look at this 100 square. So you can see that I have coloured in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So that would be 5/10. Or if we counted them all up individually, it would be 50 out of 100. So there are 100 altogether. And I've got 50 parts shaded. Lots of you, if we're in class, would be able to tell me, ooh, that's equal to a half. So let's have a look then how I can put this as a decimal and as a percentage. So as a decimal, this is going to be 5/10, 0 hundreds as we know. Decimal point goes there, and my placeholder 0. Although, as I've said before, we don't need the 0 in the hundredths or in the thousandths even. So 0.50 is the same as 0.5. And then as a percentage, this is going to be 50%. And remember, for the percent, we always take it from out of 100. The numerator of whatever the fraction would be out of 100. Because percent is part of 100. Okay, let's have a look at another example. Okay, so here I've got a bar model. There are 4 parts altogether, so that's going to be my denominator, and I've got 1 part shaded, so that's going to be my numerator. So to work this out as a decimal and as a percentage, I'm going to do what I did before and work out what the fraction is as hundredths. Okay, so 4 multiplied by what equals 100. So if you're struggling to do this, what we could do is do the inverse. We'll do 100 divided by 4, and that'll tell us how much we need to multiply by. So 4 goes into 1, well it doesn't, so we'll carry the 1 over. 4 goes into 10 2 times with 2 left over. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. That means 4 times 25 is 100. And of course we'll do the same to the numerator. So times that by 25. And 1 times 25 is 25. So now I've put it into hundreds, I can work out what it is as a decimal and as a percentage. And as a decimal, 0 ones, 2 tenths, 5 hundredths, 0.25. And as a percentage, remember you just look at the numerator for the hundredths fraction, 25%. Okay, so here I've got a blank fraction wall and I've made myself a little key up here. So I'm going to write on the fractions in blue, the decimals in red and the percentages in green. So at the beginning of this lesson, we looked at 50 100ths and we said it was a half. Now this is a half here, so I'm going to write this in half, half. The decimal was 0.5, so I'll write that in here. And the percentage was 50%. And on the last slide, we looked at quarter, this one here, so I'll write that in quarter. As a decimal, that was 0.25. And as a percentage, it was 25%. I could also fill in the top one, because I know here that this is a whole, and as a whole, we just write the number 1. As a decimal, it's going to be 1 as well. And then as a percentage, it will be, remember, it's always out of 100, 100%. So that's a complete bar. What I'd like you to do now, pause your video and have a go at filling in the rest of these parts in the fraction wall. So you might want to copy the whole fraction wall out on a piece of scrap paper. quite good if you did, or you want to do it on strips of paper, fold them up, that's fine. Just remember that you need to, like we've done on the last 2 slides, and like we did at the end of the last lesson, convert it into hundredths first, because then you'll be able to get the decimal and the percentage. Once you're done, press play, and I will show you the complete fraction wall with all the decimals, fractions and percentages, and then you can use that to help you with the rest of today's lesson. So pause your video now and have a go. So your first line, you should have got a third. So there are 3 bars altogether on this row, and each bar represents 1/3, 0.3 and 30%. This one was quite tricky, so don't worry if you didn't get this one right, but there are 6 bars here. So each part is representing 1/6, which as a decimal is 0.16 about, and then as a percentage that's going to be 16%, roughly. This one is another tricky one, 1/8. As a decimal, you should have got 0.125, and as a percentage, 12.5%. So as you're doing your work today, you might want to keep this part of the video open up on a separate tab, because it will help you with your work. Okay, let's see what our Very Fluency looks like today. So as we have been doing, obviously you can't use bead strings, so I'll crop that bit out. But what are these decimals as percentages and as fractions, and then can you simplify the fraction? So for example, simplifying, if you have a fraction like this, for example 30 60ths, you need to think of a number that's a multiple of both the numerator and the denominator. So for instance, I know that 30 and 60 are in the 10 times table, so I can divide both of them by 10. And if I do 30 divided by 10, I get 3, and 6 divided by 10, 6. And that's simplified that fraction. I can go even further, and you probably will be able to tell me that I could divide by 3 again. So I do 6 divided by 3, then I've got 2, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So 30 60ths, if I simplify it right down, I can get a half. So see if you could go have a go at doing that. And then it says here, use the bar models to convert the fractions into percentages and decimals. I will put the picture of the bar model up, and then I'll leave you a section in your Google Docs to do that. And I've seen here about the draw the arrows. I'm going to have a bit of a play with Google Docs and see if I can get that one to work for you. As always, I'm with Year 6 all day, but if you need me, do give me a message and I can get back to you at lunchtimes or after school. Have a wonderful day and hope to see you all soon. Bye!